Well, welcome back to the Cory Lee Show, y'all. Today is going to be an exciting episode. I'm excited about our conversation. I believe it's going to be good. I got one of my really good friends joining us for today, and I just know I truly believe you're going to be blessed by the conversation that we're going to have. I don't know what's going to come out of the conversation, but I believe it's going to be good, and I believe that you're going to be blessed and uplifted. And so I've got my friend Brandon Johnson with me today. And Brandon, welcome to the Cory Lee Show, man.
Man, thanks so much. I really appreciate you having me on. I'm honored. I listen to most all your podcasts, and man, I love the show. I'm a huge fan.
Awesome. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on. And just to kind of give a little bit of an intro to Brandon. Brandon, like myself, started out in the medical field and did that for a time, but now he is an entrepreneur. And when we first met, I found it super interesting what he does. He has an online store. I'm sure he'll tell more about that. Amazon and eBay, and just an awesome business. It's not just a hobby that he is doing. He has built a business that is providing work for people. He's providing a service to a community. And I just find it incredible, the systems and processes that he's had in place. And so a great businessman, great father, and a great man in the community as well. And I'm sure we're going to dive into some faith whenever you and I get together. We talk about Jesus, so there's going to be probably going to
Right.
be some of that in there. But Brandon, that's kind of what you do now. Take us a little bit on the journey. How did you get to where you are today?
Well, it started. Uh, my love for what I do started when I was about 18 years old. I was in college at Mississippi State, and unfortunately, I wasn't going to school like I was supposed to be. I flunked out of college twice because, well, number one, I wasn't doing what God wanted me to do. I think that was the first thing. But I developed a love for just finding things and being able to profit off of them. Started out just selling baseball cards on eBay when like eBay was almost brand new, and then I'm like, this is really neat. I can make some money off of this, and just the whole process. Really, I was just really drawn to it, and I just got excited about it, and then it just kind of hit me that the internet was fairly new around here, and I'm like, there's possibilities here. So I started out just sourcing things on stores and different places, and that was just for extra money for then. And then ultimately, I did. Uh, God got me through the storm. I really didn't know Him yet, but He provided a way out of a lot of problems that I was having, some things I was going through while I was in college, and I just wasn't in the right place where He wanted me to be, and it took my beautiful wife to kind of draw me out of that. I met Calissa when I was at MEW, and I just fell in love with her, and really she was that rock and that person I needed to help kind of pull me out of some things that I was drawn into. That she's in a bad place, to be honest with you, and ultimately, we got married. I've got two beautiful children now, 13-year-old son, 10-year-old daughter, and I didn't know what I wanted to do in life. I didn't at 18. I had no idea, um, and I let other people that had good intentions for me kind of tell me what they thought I should be doing.
Mm.
And I want to caution anybody that's listening to this, that's not what it's about. It's about what God's purpose for you is and what His intentions for you are. Seek that out. And that was my first mistake, number one. Um, but then ultimately I said, God, what do you want me to do? And He provided a way for me to, even though I had a GPA of I think at the time my GPA might have been like 0.6.
Couldn't
Really.
even measure on
You're
the
like,
Richter
you're
scale.
like, we were just talking about my 18-year-old dog, Cory. I'm like, I'm thinking my 18-year-old dog might could get a 0.6 GPA. I don't know. But I'm like, I'm never going to get into a college. Nobody's ever going to want me. And, you know, I just kind of started, well, God, what avenue can I go down? What can I do? What do you want me to do? And ultimately, I found a way through ICC. You know, they didn't take the GPA. They had a point system to who could get into nursing. And I went and there was a lady there named Janice Howell I met with one day. And I said, I really would like to be a nurse here and go to school. I shared my story with her. And we had one of those, it was one of those God appointed just meetings when I met with that lady. We sat there and I cried in front of her and I shared my heart with her. And she said, I'm going to help you get in. And she did. God put her right there at that point in my life where he knew I was broken and I was really searching, and she was there. And so ultimately went through nursing, got a degree in that, started working in the surgical intensive care in Tupelo, Mississippi. I enjoyed that. I loved helping people. I still love helping people. That's a big part of my heart is helping people. But I saw to it then that I wasn't going to be able to be the father that I wanted to be. And I wasn't going to be able to be the man of God that I thought that God wanted me to be. I was missing Christmases, birthdays. I wasn't getting to go with my family to church. My wife is getting our young children and a baby ready for church by herself, taking these children to church alone. And I'm like, God, I need to be part of that. And I said, fine, help me find a way. And so he brought into me those tools that he had already instilled in me, and that desire that he had given me, and the love for selling things. And he said, all right, here you go. Here's that way out. And ultimately I just took a step of faith. And my wife allowed me to take a step of faith. And kind of the story was I was still nursing, went through a year. I said, we're going to see what I can do, and doing this part-time and also full-time nursing and on some things on eBay. And it was the hardest year of my life. Ultimately, didn't sleep a lot, wasn't a good daddy. I wasn't a good husband really, but as I knew this is it. This is that do or die moment in my life. And I've got to take this opportunity. And ultimately after that year, I had made a lot more money doing that than I had as a nurse. And he just blessed it.
Yeah, man, there's, as I'm listening to your story, I had a mentor say one time, he said, Cory, it does you no good to be in the right place at the right time if you lack the awareness that you're even there. In your whole story, you recognize the opportunity. You talked about when you met your wife, you talked about the lady that got you into the nursing program, and these opportunities came, but you recognized those opportunities, but you also recognized who they were from. I think that's really, really powerful. I want to go back. You mentioned you were in a bad way, like in college, and you were doing some stuff. When you were caught up in that, did you recognize it was bad in the moment, or like what was or was it something later on that shifted? Like, ooh, I shouldn't be doing that. Like, did you know it in the moment?
Yeah, I knew in the moment when I didn't know how to experience, number one, failure. As a teenager, I was I was fairly smart, I guess, when it came to school, but I was going to a school that didn't have a lot of the advanced classes. And then so I let people talk me into going into biological engineering, which I could care less how anything works. I can't fix anything. Man, I don't know how to do anything. Okay. That is the one thing that I should not even be touching at all. And these people are like, this is good. You can go do this or that. And ultimately I went to a 4-year university by myself. I had no friends that went with me. So ultimately I went into a time, number one, I wasn't with God then. I was just alone. And I was looking for anything and everything that could make me kind of feel good and make me feel better about myself, because I didn't do well. And I'm like, I don't like this. And then so I went through it, and I was really trying for a while at school, but then I kind of gave up. I said, I just can't do this. It's not me. I don't like it. Why am I doing this? But then I was ashamed to tell people and to share with people that love me. I mean, yeah, people would ultimately would have been disappointed for a short season.
Because
But if I had just shared my heart.
weren't you in school? You weren't going to school, but everybody thought you were going to school, right?
Oh yeah, man, living a total lie. It's crazy. You think you want to watch some stuff on TV today? You want to watch a Netflix series? I had you one, okay? I could maybe make one of those. But yeah, I mean, I was to the point to where I had lived this lie where I'm telling people, I mean, I had made fake like report cards.
Wow.
I mean, ultimately just living a full life of lies. I didn't know Jesus then, but I'm portraying to know Christ. I'm in church. People think that I'm a follower of Jesus. I'm not.
Hmm.
I am every part and facet of my life is a lie almost. And I just I got really depressed and
Hmm.
it was just like, I just can't tell people. And then I just began to feel the shame. I began just to feel worthless. I can remember one night laying in bed thinking, they would be better off without me.
Hmm.
I don't have much worth. And then, I got addicted to gambling and man, I got in a lot of trouble financially that I wasn't sharing with people, credit card debt, not paying. I mean, when I got out all this and I had a credit score of 400. I mean, I was just in a bad way, stole money from my parents to gamble when they thought I was doing tuition. I mean, man, it was just out of control. And I did realize it, but I'm like, I just couldn't make that confession to
Hmm.
those that love me. I just couldn't take that step that said, I just need to get this off my chest. I need to come clean. And man, it was a really hard time in my life. It was bad.
Brent, let me ask you something. Like, so you're going to school and you're not doing good. You said something I thought was really powerful. I did not know how to fail. Man, that is a powerful thing. Maybe we jump into that here in a second. But you had never experienced failure, and you're not doing up to your standard. You're not doing good, and it kind of starts to spiral out of control to where now you're making up lies. Making up your own report cards. You're stealing from mom and them to gamble. And probably you mentioned ashamed, feel a little bit worthless. Probably, I guess, thinking as well, like I can get myself. I don't know why that thumbs down went. I can get myself out of this.
Yeah, I give that a thumbs down too. That was all bad. You're right.
Yeah,
Bad
for those
stuff.
listening on podcast, the picture form just did a thumbs down somehow. I don't know how that happened. Anyway, I want to know, like, what shifted? What happened? Like, was there what moment did you finally get to the point, man, I got to get this off my chest, or did some kind of situation happen that forced you out of it?
Oh, it was a force.
Okay. What
I
happened?
lived the lie. I lived the lie as long as I could. I think I finally come clean about 2 weeks before people thought I was going to graduate.
Mm,
People thought I was going to have an actual, I think at that time, a business degree. Man, I was at the end of the road. So then I had to come clean with everyone that loved me. I mean, can you imagine lying to everybody in your life? My
mm,
grandparents, my parents, my wife that I'm engaged to Calissa now. Her parents, people at church. I mean, you name it, man. I
wow.
was living just, we talk about, I mean, Satan is the father of lies, but I think I was coming in second, okay? It was horrible. I was coming in second. Okay, it was bad.
Yeah.
And then, it was just, man, I came clean with everybody. And, that was a bad experience. But it was an experience that I learned a lot from.
Yeah.
I learned, man, I should never lie to people. I mean, I should always be truthful. I could have relationships with people and be able to come to them and say, I'm sorry, I lied about this. I got this going on. I've been living this front in my life. I don't have it together. I'm not doing so well
Yeah.
and I need some help.
Yeah.
And
There's power in that, man. There's power in that vulnerability and that confession. I want to ask you real quick in that, how did the people who truly love you, your mom and them, you were engaged at the time, how did they respond? And then I want to know, once you let it out, what did you feel on the inside?
So just coming, telling Calissa and my parents, first, they were, I mean, you can imagine the disappointment, that they were feeling, the betrayal. Um, I just can't imagine how I feel if my children did that to me,
Mm-hmm.
and her parents, and I was treated with love,
And that's where I was going.
and
I'm sorry to cut you
I
off,
really was.
but they were disappointed, but they didn't abandon you, right? Because you and your
No,
wife, you still married. You still
yeah,
married,
man,
and
she,
I think, and the reason I'm kind of touching on that, and I know we didn't talk about where we were going to go with this, but there's power in that, and a lot of times, I know myself, right? We've all been there, kind of what you're talking about. You've done some things and you try to cover it up. Man, what are people going to do? How are people going to
mhm,
respond? And you allow that just to keep stuffing it on the inside of you. You allow that to keep pushing it down. And yeah, there is disappointment, but they did not abandon you, right?
no, no,
They kind of kept going. And as you were talking, this verse of scripture came to my mind. It's James 5. It says, confess your faults to one another and pray for one another so that you may be healed. And
yeah,
that healing is like a deep inner work. It's a deep, deep inner work. I had, I don't want to take away from our conversation, but as you're telling this, it reminded me of, I had done some things that, you know, obviously sinned and tried to cover those up. And I'd confessed to the Lord, and I was praying one day, and this sin was past. But I was praying one day, and I felt like the Lord said, "You got to humble yourself." And I knew exactly what that meant. That meant confess it to my
mm,
wife. And it's
yeah,
like, no, no, Lord, come on,
mm,
no, anything but that. And I was like,
mm.
can't you just wave your magic wand and forget about it?
Yeah,
And he said, this is what he said, Brendan. He said, "Oh, I have, but you haven't." And what he means is there was something in my heart that was still hanging on to it. And so I'm telling you, it's a powerful thing. The minute I confessed it, that thing inside of me was released. And so when I heard your story, when you're telling that, the people who loved you, yes, it hurt them. Yes, there was probably time to heal that, but they did not abandon you. And so what about for you? Like, what was that for you once you confessed it and you kind of got away from, the shame and all of it? How did it affect you?
yeah. Well, ultimately, it was just really, people showing me the love of Jesus.
Mm,
I mean, really, because he's the one that's forgiven us for everything.
yeah.
And that, and then I had that feeling of, it's like, okay, man, I can breathe now. I have been just stuffing and stuffing and stuffing all this bad stuff into my life. And now, I can get rid of all that. I'm clean. And it's kind of not really a fresh start, but it is a time to where, okay, I'm in the valley, but now I feel like I can finally start trekking back up. Okay,
Hmm.
I can start making my way back. And ultimately, you know, it, my parents, of course, you think your parents are the ones that won't, let you down or leave you. But ultimately, my wife, she could have left so easily, Cory.
Hmm.
She just said I mean, almost our whole relationship had been a lie. I had lied the whole time. And she could have been like, man, this guy's worthless. He's nothing but a liar. There's no truth in him. Why would I want him to be my husband?
Hmm.
And man, she stuck with me. You
Hmm.
know, she was faithful. And I think that was just, it was just a testament to me of watching her life of how faithful God is.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
says, he says, man, Brandon, you are rotten, but
Hmm.
you know what? I love you.
Mm.
And that's really how people treated me.
Wow.
And then, it just allowed me to say, okay, I've got to start living for Christ. Um, ultimately I didn't accept Christ as my savior until around 12 years ago. So I still had some things to work out and stop relying on myself
Yeah.
and start relying on him.
Man, that's good. What I hear, and so we're going to bring it up a little bit. I love your story right there because it's a story of what you said, love and redemption, and you've been redeemed, man. And even from your spirit side for sure, but even in what you're capable of now, because you've got a business that's making an impact on the community. How many team members you got on your team?
It's 10.
Got 10 people on your team. You've built a business where you've employed 10 team members. You're not going to say this, but you give to all kinds of charity, you donate, you're doing a lot of good in the community. From a financial perspective, you're doing really well thinking about where you came from. And so one of the
Yeah.
things that I really wanted to dive into in our conversation as well is if you're buying and selling on eBay, and baseball cards, that was something that you were doing as well. You can spot an opportunity, right? And
Right.
so you're
Yeah.
good at sourcing opportunities. I would just love to hear from your perspective, like how do you know what is a good deal? How do you know what opportunity to pursue? Like, do you have a process or system, or like, how did you get good at that?
Um, you kind of just, well, I started, I was taking in that content we would like to talk about. I found people that knew what they were talking about, and I felt like I could learn from back then. And I was just, I could remember consuming, especially when I started learning Amazon, which is a much bigger process than just selling something on eBay. I can remember, I'm listening to at least 2 to 3 hours a day on YouTube of people telling, what to do, what not to do. And then ultimately when you're looking for the opportunity, after you've done it for long enough, I used to, could go through the clearance aisle at Walmart, and you can ultimately download like the eBay app right now. There's a barcode scanner on there. You can walk up to that item that you see on clearance on Walmart. You can scan it, and then you can go to completed items, and you can see what those things are selling for. And that gives you an idea of, hey, can I make money on that? And but ultimately, just doing it for so long, I can go down that aisle and I can tell you when I see those prices. I don't go down through there scanning everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, I can just pick them out. It really just become part of who I am, I guess. I guess it's just something that God gave to me. But now when I'm looking at these bigger items now, I used to just would buy, one or two of something, but now it may be a couple of hundred of something. It may be a couple of thousand or something. So before I get deep in something, there's different softwares I have that look at past sales histories and how fast things are selling, the prices they're selling, and averages over the last year or two, and it becomes, I talked about gambling, how that was a part of my life, and the thing I do now, I tell people it is still gambling, but it's educated.
Mm-hmm.
It's an educated gamble. It is something that is studied and is not really left up to chance. But it ultimately is still there's no guarantee. So there is still a faith component into it that when I'm purchasing these things, that, ultimately it's going to do well.
Yeah. Curious. So you started out kind of like almost like a hobby, baseball cards.
Mhm.
Then you saw, man, I've got to find a way to spend more time with my family. I got to be more present. And so you saw an opportunity with Amazon and eBay and those kind of things. And it started out as a side gig. What shifted it to, man, this is a legit business? Was there a moment there or something that happened?
Well, it started out, like I said, was just the need to know I had to supplement my nursing income.
Mm-hmm.
It was never really meant, in my mind, it was never meant to be more than me.
Yeah.
Okay, I had we built this 1,200 square foot shop. I'm just gonna go out here and work every day, and I'm gonna do what I do. And I enjoyed it. And I was fine with that. But um, after I got on Amazon, I really didn't know what to expect, I guess. My first Black Friday, I was by myself. Um, I shipped, I shipped for either 20 or 22 hours straight by
Whoa.
myself.
Wow.
And then the whole area was just out of control. And then finally that January, I'm like, I need somebody to help me. I'm like, this is more than I can handle. And it wasn't really even a thought of, hey, I want to grow. It's more of a thought of, I'm kind of drowning.
Yeah.
I need some help. I need some help. And so ultimately, my current warehouse manager, Mark, he came on, and it was just meant for him to go through and help me straighten up the mess I made, kind of help me re-inventory the stuff that I had. And then we kind of, he and I got Amazon together. And then it's like, we finding, these things, we're sourcing and we need more help because we got to get the shipments out, we're doing things and really on a smaller scale, but ultimately then I added a couple other people part-time and I told you I've got this 1,200 square foot shop, but it's so full. I've rented this other little um place that's down the road from my house. It's about 1,000 square feet. It's full of stuff. I've got stuff in storage units all over Amory. We're having to go in the mornings before we can ship and get stuff out of storage units. And just ultimately the need just kept going. And then ultimately I'm like, you know what? I need a warehouse.
Hmm.
And so then we bought the warehouse in Smithville where we are now. And then it just kept growing. Well, I need somebody to help with this. We need more help with that and this and that. And and God just kept, it's hard to find good people to work in a small business. And especially when I don't offer insurance. 'Cause that's a
Yeah,
big deal.
it
People need
is.
insurance, but the people that work for me are so special. We all have needs, but these people each one of them has either, I'm not saying that we're an afflicted group of people, but they have special sicknesses or situations in their life. And I'm just like, are things going? And I'm like, God just brought these people in so that we can be together and help each other. So I think that's really special about the group of people.
Hmm. Um, for anybody who's listening as more of an entrepreneur from an entrepreneur lens, kind of what I heard in your story is that you kind of started small and it built from there. And I love doing that as an entrepreneur. I know there are other methods and means of getting there, but I like starting and building big. Starting small and building big, it allows you to kind of develop your systems and processes, allows you to refine some things without the huge risk that could be if you kind of went the other way. But as I listened, there are a couple of you didn't dive deep into it, but I can just imagine it started out as a side gig. You started in it and you got to a point, man, I needed some help. And so to get to another level, you had to bring in good quality people. From there, you brought in more people, but something that you kind of eased over. You talked about some software that you had. Eventually, to get to another level for a as an entrepreneur, you got to have systems and processes that are in place. And many times as entrepreneurs, sometimes we can get stuck by that lid of what happened, what worked in the past, maybe trying to keep doing that same thing. But if you're going to get to that next level, sometimes you got to develop systems and processes and structures so that you can do that. And so, Brandon, one last question I have for you, and we'll see. I don't know how far this will go, but before we hopped on, you mentioned a verse of scripture that kind of goes along with opportunity. And I'd love for you to share that verse of scripture if you had a little bit of time.
Yeah. It's Ephesians uh, chapter 5, verses 15 through 20. Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. Do not get drunk on wine, which can lead to debauchery. Instead, be filled with the Spirit, speaking to one another with psalms, hymns, and songs from the Spirit. Sing and make music from your heart to the Lord, always giving thanks to God the Father for everything in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. So, yeah, I wanted to just share about how important it is when you're given that opportunity that you seize it. How ultimately I was given an extra opportunity after all those things happened in my life. These people forgave me, kind of gave me a fresh slate, and it was up to me. So, like I said, I started that hill, but it's up to me to make that progress now. Those people are looking to me to kind of make right what was wrong. And ultimately, I could have given up, but I just I didn't like, I still know what that feeling of that failure feels like, Cory. I didn't let that leave me.
Mm.
I said, I will never, I don't ever want to feel that again.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to feel that again. So, you know, I go through seasons where I am, I think I've talked to you about this. Complacency is a problem of mine sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And we become complacent, we're not seizing those opportunities.
Yeah.
Okay, we're just kind of sitting back and on the sidelines and saying, things are going well. I'm just going to let good enough be good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and, but then that next line says, understand what the Lord's will is. He didn't create me to sit on the sideline for him. In my walk in business, in my walk with Christ, in as a husband, as a father, he didn't say, well, you done pretty good this week. Why don't you go sit over there next week and sit down and chill out? No, man, we can't do that. And when it talks about getting drunk on wine, they really are talking about wine, but I also want to apply that to just the things that we let get in the way. You know, if you're drunk on wine, that's going to get in the way of your progress.
Yeah.
Well, these other distractions in your life are getting in the way of your process. What distractions are going on in your business that are getting in the way of your processes and the success? And what really are your goals? Because so many times when I'm not hitting those goals, when I've got problems, it's because I've given in to the distraction. I'm not focused. My eyes are not on the prize, okay? And in my spiritual life, my heart posture is not toward God. It's got to be there toward Him. Where's your heart posture?
Mm-hmm.
Are you focused on Him? Or are you distracted? But be filled with the Spirit. Thank God for the Holy Spirit, because He's the one that tells me, hey, you better stop looking left. You better stop looking right. You better start looking straight at Him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you can be like, you know, you're re-energized. That's when you see, oh, hey, He was there the whole time. I just wasn't looking the right way. Those opportunities are there in your life. They're there in your business. They're there with the things that God's planned for you. Just stop being distracted. Stop being too busy. And then when you have reached that point at the end, you better be giving thanks to who thanks is due. Because it ain't you that did it. It's the one that created you that allowed you to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I realized that, life became different.
Yeah.
My business became different. My life with my family became different. Who I am as a child of God became different. Because I used to worry early in the business, I'm not going to find enough things to sell. I've got all these employees to support. I just can't do it. And then I became obsessed with some of those things and worry. And then I started taking time away from my family. But when I said, God, I'm going to quit worrying about it, let you handle it. Not be complacent. That's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But when I had faith that He's going to provide, now I can just, He does.
Yeah.
He does.
Man, that is such a like a weight off your shoulders feeling. And I can't tell how many people I've had conversations with this about. You will not find that in a book of
Mhm.
like just releasing, because all these books, they talk about 10x this and 10x that. You got to work hard, work hard, work hard. It's an interesting thing when you work by faith. And it's not being lazy, it's not being complacent, it's being faithful. And man, there's such um, a pressure to perform, a striving that is just let go of whenever you walk by faith. And I thought that was powerful. Something you said that I don't want to blow by. You said, I never let that feeling of failure go by, and I never want that feeling again. I've said this on the podcast before, but I was reading a book by Don Yeager, and he got the opportunity to interview the greatest athletes of all time. You know, you're talking about Peyton Manning, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, all that. And he would ask the best of the best the same question. And he would ask them, what separates the greatest of all time from the good? And you think about that, the good athletes, I mean, these are still, you know, professional athletes. They're still in the top 1%, but the greats. And he said, without fail, they all answered the question the same exact way, maybe in their own different words, but the essence was the same. He said they hated to lose more than they loved to win. And that's kind of what you're saying, because Kobe Bryant, he said it this way. He said, when you love to win, but you don't hate to lose, when you lose, it's like, well, we gave it the good old college try, right? We did good. We'll get them next time. And he said, but when you hate to lose, it eats at you, and it causes you to get better. It causes you to say, you know what? What you just said, I never want that feeling again. I'm going to do whatever I got to do to get better. I'm going to do whatever it looks like for you, for me, to improve in that area, because I don't want that feeling again. Failure is not fatal. It's not. What I have found is whenever we fail, it shines light on opportunities for growth. And I can whine about it. I can complain about it. I can go climb up in my bed and choose not to ever get out again. Or I can say, you know what? An area of growth has been highlighted to me. What am I going to do about it? And that's kind of what I heard you say. That's why it keeps improving you. So, man, I love that. I love everything you said, redeeming the time, how powerful that is, and making the most of every opportunity. I think, too, what I heard in your story, the importance of recognizing opportunity, but recognizing who opportunities come from. Recognizing the source of those opportunities is a powerful thing as well. And I think that could be an episode for some other time. So, Brandon, dude, you have added a ton of value. Hey, if somebody's listening and they're like, man, there's something about the way Brandon talks, or something, he carries something. I would love to connect with them. How do people connect with you?
Yeah, you can send me an email at Brandon@Monroe, that's MONROEDEPOT.com. Brandon@MonroeDepot.com. I'd love to connect with you, because a whole nother episode that I go with is the importance of those connections, that we make together. So I'd love to connect with anybody, help you out if I can.
Awesome. Brandon@MonroeDepot.com. And hey, connect with Brandon. He's an awesome, awesome guy who, if you want people in your corner who's going to care about you, care about your success, and want to see you succeed, hey, that's your dude right there, Brandon. He's your guy.
Appreciate that, Cory. Thank you.
Yeah, he definitely will. He's somebody who will elevate you. And so I've enjoyed getting to know him over the last several months, and definitely have added a ton of value today, Brandon. Thanks for coming on. And hey, for anybody who's listening, that if Brandon said something that stood out to you, make sure to comment. We'll pass that along to him or connect with him. Make sure you like and subscribe so you can stay up to date with any of the latest episodes of the Cory Lee Show. Appreciate you guys. Hope y'all have a great day, and God bless.